Okay, here's some really groundbreaking news that's worth digging into. Imagine this: a sophisticated drone taking off and landing all by itself, completely autonomously, on a ship.
And not just any ship, right? A short-runway vessel.
Exactly, the TCG Anadolu. And it wasn't like a lucky shot either. 4 times, 4 successful autonomous flights in one day.
Yeah, that's the core of this report from April 25th, 2025 we're looking at today. It details these tests with the Bayraktar TB3.
So our mission here really is to unpack what this actually means, for naval power, for drone technology. Why is this such a big deal? Let's get into it.
Well, it's significant because it's demonstrating a capability that fundamentally changes how naval power can be projected. We're not just talking remote control here.
No.
This is full autonomy from the sea. That's a major step. So yeah, our aim is to understand why these specific tests matter so much and what the TB3 itself, brings to the table. It's about ISR, intelligence gathering, but also strike potential, all launched from a ship.
Absolutely. The report gets specific. April 22nd, 2025, in the Gulf of Saros, 4 autonomous sorties. They even call the campaign fully autonomous takeoff and landing tests from short-runway vessel. Pretty clear.
Right.
And one detail I thought was interesting, one of those landings was at sunset.
Yeah, that sunset landing is actually quite telling. It points towards the system being reliable, even when lighting conditions aren't perfect, which is, vital for real-world use.
Makes sense.
But the real breakthrough, as you said, is the fully autonomous part. The report stresses this: no external landing aids needed. It's all down to Baykar's own AI algorithms.
Wow.
They explicitly call the TB3 the first of its kind to pull this off.
First of its kind. That is a big claim. And the drone's design seems built around this idea, doesn't it?
It does. You've got the foldable wings, obviously crucial for fitting onto a ship like the Anadolu.
Right, for carrier operations.
And its own built-in autonomous takeoff and landing system. Plus, and this is key, it has both line of sight, or LOS, and beyond line of sight, BLOS communication.
Okay, so BLOS means it can fly missions far away from the ship, way beyond direct radio range.
Exactly. Think about intelligence gathering, surveillance, reconnaissance, ISR, or even strike missions, potentially hundreds of kilometers away.
That really extends the ship's reach.
Massively. It untethers the drone from the immediate vicinity of the carrier. You get persistent eyes over huge areas of ocean, or the ability to strike targets far beyond the horizon. And the specs back this up. We're talking a 14-meter wingspan.
That's pretty substantial.
Yeah, helps with stability for those long flights. A payload capacity of 280 kilograms?
Okay, so it can carry some serious gear.
Definitely. Endurance is quoted at over 21 hours.
21 hours.
And a service ceiling of 25,000 feet, so it can stay up high and stay on station for a very long time.
And speaking of payload, that 280 kilos allows for quite a bit of firepower, doesn't it? The report says up to 6 precision-guided munitions.
That's right, and a real mix too. Laser-guided obviously needs designation. INS GPS guided for fire and forget. Even infrared-guided and air-to-air options mentioned.
Air-to-air and a drone from a ship. That's ambitious.
It shows the breadth of potential roles they envision for it. But beyond weapons, that payload capacity also means versatility in its ISR role.
Right. Get sensors.
Exactly. Interchangeable packages. You've got advanced EOIR systems, electro-optical infrared, often with laser designators built in.
For spotting targets and guiding those laser munitions.
Precisely. Then there's talk of multi-mode ESO radar, that's active electronically scanned array. Very advanced radar tech.
Capable of tracking lots of things at once.
Yep. And ELINT sensors for electronic intelligence gathering, listening in on signals, even potentially sonobuoys for anti-submarine work.
So it's really a multi-role platform, whatever the mission needs.
That modularity is a huge plus for naval operations where you might face varied threats or tasks.
And powering all this is a Turkish engine, right? The PD-170?
Yes, a 170 horsepower turbo diesel, the PD-170, developed domestically by TEI. That's actually a really important point.
Strategic independence.
Exactly. Less reliance on foreign suppliers for critical components like the engine. And it's clearly performing. They mentioned that high-altitude test back in June 2024, hitting over 36,000 feet.
Still impressive, even if the bigger Akinci drone holds the absolute record.
Oh, absolutely. For a naval drone designed for carrier ops, that's excellent performance and validates both the engine and the airframe. Shows maturity.
The whole development seemed to have moved pretty quickly. First flight off the Anadolu was only November 2024.
Right. Then more tests just a week later.
And by the time of this report, April 25, it had already clocked over, what, 1,000 flight hours?
1,016 hours and 42 minutes, according to the report. And remember that earlier long-endurance flight they highlighted, December 2023.
Oh yeah, the 32-hour one.
32 hours straight, covering 5,700 kilometers. That really speaks volumes about its potential persistence and range.
It's one thing to fly, another to stay up that long.
And accumulating those flight hours across different tests is crucial. It builds confidence, proves reliability. It's not just a prototype anymore.
And they're not just flying circuits. They've done live fire tests too. March 2025, using the UAV-122 supersonic missile.
Developed by Roketsan, another Turkish company, fired against naval targets.
And there was that specific strike mentioned on March 27th. This sounds interesting. They hit a camouflage target beyond line of sight.
At low altitude, yeah. And the targeting wasn't done by the TB3 itself?
Right. It was laser designated by a different drone, a Bayraktar TB3.
That's a perfect example of that networked drone ecosystem they're building. One drone finds and designates, another strikes.
A real force multiplier.
Absolutely. It shows sophisticated integration, different assets working together seamlessly. It's not just about the TB3 in isolation, it's about how it fits into a larger system.
And even the sensors are going domestic. That ASOL FLIR 500 system.
From ISSN, yeah,
Right.
the electro-optical system. It had its first flight on the TB3 back in March 2024.
And the goal is for it to compete with the best internationally.
That seems to be the ambition. Again, it points to that drive for self-reliance in really critical tech areas. High-performance cameras and targeting systems are fundamental.
So let's pull back a bit. Taking all this, the autonomous landings, the range, the weapons, the sensors, the domestic tech sabers, what does this mean for the Turkish Navy, strategically?
Well, it could be genuinely transformative for their naval doctrine. Putting the TB3 on the TCG Anadolu gives them an organic, sea-based, uncrewed capability.
Meaning they don't need to rely on land bases as much?
Precisely. Or huge traditional aircraft carriers. It allows for extended operations, projecting power or maintaining surveillance far from home shores, especially in potentially contested or restricted waters.
So it expands their operational reach significantly, not just coastal defense anymore.
Oh, definitely. Think about missions like maritime interdiction, maybe preemptive strikes, and certainly persistent ISR, keeping watch in key areas like the Eastern Med, the Aegean, the Black Sea.
Right, all strategically vital zones.
And operating these drones from the sea, perhaps networked together, creates a more distributed, resilient combat architecture. It helps counter those anti-accessory denial A2AD strategies that try to keep forces out. It enhances power projection.
It's also kind of amazing to see Baykar's trajectory here. Self-funding R&D since 2003. That takes commitment.
It does, and look at the payoff. $1.8 billion in export revenue reported for both 2023 and 2024.
Wow, and that was like 80–90% of their total turnover.
Yeah, meaning most of their business is exports. They're ranked among Turkey's top 10 exporters overall, not just in defense.
Huge success story. How many countries have bought their drones now?
The report mentions export agreements with 36 countries in total, 34 for the famous TB2, and 11 already for the larger Akin CI.
So there's clearly a global market for what they're building.
No question. Being Turkey's top defense and aerospace exporter multiple years running really underscores their impact, both technologically and economically.
So wrapping it up, these autonomous TB3 flights from the Anadolu, they really do feel like a pivotal moment, don't they?
I think that's fair to say. It marks a new stage in Turkish naval air power, certainly. But it also highlights the growing capability and significance of sea-based UCAV's uncrewed combat aerial vehicles more broadly.
Yeah, it's the convergence of AI, autonomy, advanced sensors, precision weapons, all operating from a ship.
It has the real potential to reshape naval strategies, how navies think about projecting force and maintaining maritime security.
Okay, so just to quickly recap the key takeaways for everyone listening. We've got the Bayraktar TB3 nailing fully autonomous takeoffs and landings from a short runway ship driven by AI.
A purpose-built naval drone with foldable wings, long-range BLOS comms.
Right, carrying a serious payload for both ISR and strike missions, using domestically developed engines and increasingly sensors.
And strategically, this gives the Turkish Navy a whole new level of reach and flexibility in key maritime areas.
Plus, the company behind it, Baykar, is a major global player now, fueled by massive export success. It really feels like, you can see the threads connecting the tech, the strategy, and the global influence here.
Absolutely. It really underlines how crucial these unmanned systems are becoming in the maritime world, potentially disrupting a lot of established thinking.
So here's something to chew on, a final thought maybe. Given what the TB3 has demonstrated, How might this kind of technology start influencing the way navies around the world design their fleets and plan their deployments in the future?
Hmm.
And maybe what are the strategic or even ethical challenges that come up when you have increasingly autonomous, powerful systems like this operating at sea? Definitely something to keep an eye on as drones continue to reshape modern warfare.